By the time the final bell rang at Oak Ridge High, half the senior class was standing behind the gym, waiting to watch Alana Brooks get put in her place. Paige Holloway had spent 3 days making sure nobody missed the invitation, because Paige did not start a fight unless she had an audience. What nobody standing out there knew was that Alana had spent the last 2 years terrified of exactly this moment. Not because she could not defend herself, but because the last time she did, somebody got hurt, and she had never really forgiven herself for it. But that part came later. It started on a cold Monday morning in Riverton, Ohio, the kind of morning when the sky looked like wet concrete and the wind found every little gap in your coat. Alana was the last person off the school bus, not because she was late, but because she had learned something after changing schools 3 times in 4 years. Let everyone else rush first. Let them take up space. Let them make noise. Then slip in quietly behind them and hope nobody notices you. That was always the plan. Keep your head down, do your work, graduate, move on. Simple. Except high school has a funny way of making simple things complicated, especially when somebody like Paige Holloway decides your quiet is an insult. Alana stood at the bottom of the bus steps with one hand on the strap of her old canvas backpack, staring up at Oak Ridge High. It was a big red brick building with narrow windows, a football banner hanging crooked near the front doors, and a faded sign that said, "Home of the Hawks," in gold letters that had clearly seen better days. Kids were pouring toward the entrance in loud little groups, laughing too hard, shoving each other, complaining about tests they had not studied for. Alana watched them for a second and thought, same building, different town, same old movie. She had been in enough schools to know how quickly people noticed a new face. They noticed your clothes, your shoes, where you sat, how you talked, whether you looked nervous, whether you looked too confident. And for Alana, they noticed other things too. The dark skin, the Detroit accent that showed up whenever she was tired or irritated. The fact that she did not smile just to make strangers comfortable. She had learned early that people could turn any of that into a reason to make you feel like you had shown up somewhere you did not belong. So she pulled her jacket tighter, lowered her eyes, and walked inside. For the first 10 minutes it almost worked. She found her locker, fought with the rusty combination lock, and ignored the little whispers moving down the hallway like a draft under a door. New girl. Detroit, I think. Is she a senior? I heard she got kicked out of another school. That last one made Alana pause for half a second. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for her chest to tighten. Rumors always got to a new school before the truth did. The truth took longer. The truth was messy. The truth did not fit in the hallway whisper. She had just gotten the locker open when the hallway shifted around her. It was subtle at first, the way conversations dropped a notch and people stepped aside without being asked. Alana did not have to turn around to know somebody important was coming. Then she saw the reflection in the metal locker door. Blonde hair, expensive boots, perfect posture. 2 girls following close behind like they'd been hired for the job. Paige Holloway walked through Oak Ridge High the way some people walk into a restaurant they own. Not loud exactly. Paige did not need loud. Her confidence did all the talking. She was tall, polished, always dressed like she had somewhere more interesting to be. And she had that look some people get when they have spent too long being told that every room belongs to them. Behind her were Kendra Bell, with sharp red hair and sharper opinions, and Molly Tran, who rarely spoke unless she had something that could make a situation worse. Paige's older brother Tyler was captain of the football team, and her family had money, the kind that showed up in Booster Club plaques, new gym equipment, and quiet favors from adults who liked to pretend they were not favors. From adults who liked to pretend they were not favors. Paige had never officially been crowned anything at Oak Ridge High, but everybody knew she was the queen of the place. She decided who was cool, who was weird, who was invisible, and who became entertainment before lunch. Alana looked up just once. Paige was staring directly at her, not smiling, not frowning either, just looking like a person studying a piece of furniture they had not ordered. Paige gave a small tilt of her head, almost polite, then said, "You must be the transfer." Alana kept one hand inside her locker. "That obvious." Paige smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Around here people usually introduce themselves." "Maybe I like surprises," Alana said. It was not meant to be rude. That was the thing. It came out calm, almost flat, but Paige heard it anyway. Kendra made a little sound like she was trying not to laugh. Molly looked Alana up and down. Paige's smile stayed in place, but something behind it changed. "Well," Paige said. "Welcome to Oak Ridge." Then she turned and walked away, her boots clicking down the tile floor, her friends trailing behind her. Alana watched them leave and felt that familiar warning settle in her stomach. Some people did not need to say a threat out loud. You could feel it in the way they walked away. First period was history. Alana took the seat in the back corner near the window, the one place where she could see the door, the board, and most of the room without having to look like she was watching anybody. Mr. Doyle handed her a textbook and gave her a quick smile. "We are on Reconstruction. You picked an exciting week to join us." A couple kids laughed. Alana smiled politely. "I have had worse Mondays." She tried to focus on the lesson, but 2 rows over, Paige was whispering to Kendra. The whispers were quiet enough to avoid getting caught, and loud enough to make sure Alana heard every word. Detroit must have some wild dress codes. Kendra snorted. Maybe the first store was closed. Molly added, "No, that jacket has character, like a haunted couch." A few people laughed. Not everybody. Some looked down at their desks. Some pretended not to hear. That was always the part Alana hated most, not even the person saying the cruel thing, but the people who heard it and decided staying comfortable mattered more than doing what was right. Alana gripped her pencil. She counted to 5 in her head, then 10. She did not turn around. She did not give Paige the reaction she wanted. By the end of the period, Paige had stopped whispering, but Alana could feel her eyes in the back of her neck. That should have been a warning. Instead, Alana told herself it would pass. It never passed when people like Paige got curious. Lunch was where Oak Ridge High showed its real personality. The cafeteria was not just a cafeteria. It was a map. Athletes near the center, theater kids by the windows, the band crowd near the vending machines, freshmen floating around with trays like they had accidentally wandered into an adult convention. And then there was the far corner, the table nobody claimed because it sat under a buzzing light next to the trash cans. Alana chose that table on purpose. She had brought a turkey sandwich from home, an apple, and a bag of chips. She was halfway through the sandwich when the room got quieter, not silent. Not yet, but quieter in that way a room gets when people sense something worth watching. Alana looked up. Paige was coming toward her with Kendra and Molly. Paige held a large plastic cup of fruit punch in one hand, red enough to ruin anything it touched. "You know," Paige said, stopping at the table, "you do not have to sit all the way out here like you are hiding from the FBI." Alana looked at her sandwich. "Good to know." Paige laughed softly. "You always this friendly." Only before noon, a couple people at nearby tables tried to hide their smiles. That was the mistake. Paige heard it. Her face did not change, but Alana saw her fingers tighten around the cup. "I am trying to be nice," Paige said. "That is sweet," Alana replied. "You should keep practicing." For 1 second, nobody breathed. Then Paige tipped the cup. It happened slowly enough that there was no pretending it was an accident. Red punch poured over Alana's tray, soaked the sandwich, ran across the table, and dripped onto the floor. Paige put one hand over her mouth. "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry." Kendra laughed first. Molly joined in. Then the whole cafeteria followed, not because it was funny, but because Paige had taught them laughing was safer than not laughing. Alana sat still. The fruit punch had splashed her sleeve and stained the front of her jacket. She could smell the sugar, sharp and cheap. Her heart was pounding hard enough to hurt. But just 1 second, she saw another cafeteria, another school, another girl laughing while Alana stood there trying to keep her hands from shaking. She could feel the old anger rise, hot and fast, the kind that started in her chest and climbed straight into her throat. Her body remembered before her mind did. Shoulders loose, feet planted. Breathe. Do not react. Do not let them pull you somewhere you promised yourself you would never go again. Alana set down what was left of her sandwich. She stood up, picked up the tray, walked to the trash can, dumped the whole thing. Then she walked back, picked up her backpack, and looked directly at Paige. She did not glare. She did not look scared. That was what made it worse. Her face was calm, almost too calm. "You done?" Alana asked. Paige blinked. She had expected yelling. "Maybe crying?" Alana asked. Paige blinked. She had expected yelling. "Maybe crying?" Maybe some kind of scene she could own. Instead, Alana gave her nothing. "I said I was sorry," Paige said. "Yeah," Alana said. "You did." Then she walked out of the cafeteria. The room stayed quiet behind her. The room stayed quiet behind her. Outside, the wind hit Alana in the face, cold enough to make her eyes water. She kept walking until she reached the far end of the parking lot, where nobody could see her. Then she leaned against the brick wall beside the old maintenance shed and let out a breath she had been holding for what felt like years. She was shaking. Not because Paige had spilled a drink on her, not because everybody laughed. She had survived worse. She was shaking because some part of her had wanted to turn around, grab Paige by that perfect little wrist, and make the whole cafeteria understand what it felt like to be humiliated, and that scared her more than Paige ever could. Back inside, Paige sat at her usual center table, pretending nothing had happened. But something had changed. Kendra was quieter than usual. Molly kept checking her phone even though it was obvious she was reading the room, not her messages. At nearby tables, students whispered, not about Alana, about Paige. She did not even flinch. I think Paige was more embarrassed than the new girl. Did you see her face? Paige heard all of it. She gripped her fork so hard her knuckles turned pale. She had built her whole reputation on one simple rule. Make people scared of you before they have the chance to laugh at you. But Alana had not looked scared. She had looked tired. And somehow that made Paige feel small in a way she could not explain. By Wednesday, Paige had made it her mission to crack that calm face. In class, her friends laughed whenever Alana answered a question. In the hallway, somebody bumped Alana's shoulder hard enough to make her books fall. During gym, Tyler Holloway and his friend Dean Morales kept cutting in front of her during laps, slowing down suddenly, forcing her to dodge them without making it obvious to the teacher. Dean grinned every time he brushed past her. Watch where you are going, Detroit. Tyler said nothing, which somehow made it worse. He was a big guy, broad shoulders, varsity jacket, the kind of kid teachers called a leader because they liked the way he smiled at adults. He did not look like a bully. That was part of the problem. Alana kept running, her jaw tight, her breathing steady, one foot after another. Dean bumped her again, harder this time. Alana stumbled, caught herself, and kept going. From the bleachers, Paige watched with her arms folded. She should have felt satisfied. Instead, she looked irritated. What is wrong with her? Kendra asked. Paige did not take her eyes off Alana. She thinks she is better than everybody. Or maybe she just does not care, Molly said quietly. Paige turned her head. Nobody does not care. But that was not true. Or maybe it was what Paige needed to believe. Because if Alana truly did not care what Paige thought, then Paige's power was not as real as she had spent years pretending it was. That afternoon, Alana came home to a small, one-story house on Cedar Street, where the porch light always flickered twice before it stayed on, and the kitchen always smelled faintly like coffee, even when nobody had made any. Her father, Raymond Brooks, was in the garage gym behind the house, wrapping his hands before a training session. Ray had once been a regional boxer, good enough to have his picture in an old newspaper clipping taped above the speed bag, not famous enough for anybody outside the neighborhood to remember his name. A shoulder injury ended his career before it ever became the thing he hoped it would be, but he never talked about it like a tragedy. He just said life had changed the plan. Now he coached kids after school, taught self-defense classes on Saturdays, and fixed old cars when people could not afford a shop. Alana stood in the doorway of the garage for almost a full minute before he noticed her. You gonna stand there all night, he said, or are you gonna tell me why you look like somebody stole your dog and charged you for parking? Alana tried to smile. It did not work. Ray put down the ham wrap. School, she nodded. People being stupid. Another nod. That part is usually free. Alana stepped inside, shut the door behind her, and sat on the old bench near the heavy bag. For a while, she did not say anything. She hated how easy it was to talk to her father when she had spent all day pretending nothing could touch her. Finally, she told him. Not every little detail at first, just the juice, the laughs, the shoulder bumps, the way Paige kept looking at her like she was a problem that needed solving. Ray listened without interrupting. When she finished, he sat down across from her and rested his elbows on his knees. You thinking about Chicago? He asked. That question hit harder than anything Paige had said. Alana looked at the floor. 2 years earlier, at her old school in Detroit, a girl named Cassidy had spent months pushing her. Notes in her locker, gum in her hair, a shove in the stairwell. Little things. The kind adults called drama until they became something worse, One afternoon, Cassidy cornered her behind the school with two friends. Alana had tried to walk away. Cassidy grabbed her backpack, then she swung at her. Alana moved on instinct, a step to the side, a grip on the wrist, a quick turn. It was supposed to be a simple defense, something Ray had taught her when she was 12. But Cassidy fell wrong. She hit the pavement hard and ended up in the hospital with a broken wrist and a concussion. Alana had not meant to hurt her that badly. She had not wanted to hurt anybody at all. But afterward, all anybody remembered was that the quiet girl had snapped. They did not remember the notes, the shoves, the months of being cornered. They remembered the ambulance. They remembered the rumor. Alana swallowed hard. "I do not want that to happen again, Dad." Ray was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You know what the difference is between strength and anger?" Alana shook her head. "Anger wants to make somebody pay. Strength wants to make the danger stop." She looked up at him. Ray's voice stayed low. "You do not go looking for a fight. You never have. But you also do not have to volunteer to be somebody's target just because you are scared of what defending yourself might look like. What if I lose control?" she asked. "Then you breathe first," he said. "You make room between what they do and what you choose to do next. That is the whole thing, kid. They do not get to decide who you are." Alana sat there listening to the old garage heater click and rattle. Somewhere outside, a car drove past with the bass too loud. The heavy bag hung still in the corner. For the first time all week, she felt the knot in her chest loosen a little. She was still afraid, but it was not the same kind of fear. The next morning, Alana walked into Oak Ridge High with her shoulders back and her backpack hanging loose from one hand. She was not trying to look tough. She was just tired of walking like she owed the world an apology for existing. The hallway was louder than usual. Students stood near their lockers in little clusters, pretending to talk about homework while glancing in her direction. Alana knew something was up before she reached her locker. There was a folded piece of white paper taped across the lock. She peeled it off slowly. The handwriting was neat, almost fancy. "After school, behind the gym. Come alone. Do not make this harder than it has to be. No signature. No need for one." Alana looked down the hallway. Paige stood near the water fountain with Kendra, Molly, Tyler, and Dean. She was smiling like she had just set the final piece on a board game. Paige lifted her chin. "You get the note." Alana folded the paper once, then again, and slipped it into her jacket pocket. "I got it." Paige's smile widened. "Good. I was starting to think Detroit girls only act brave when there is a teacher around." A few people nearby laughed, but it sounded nervous this time. Alana held Paige's gaze. Her voice was quiet when she answered, but every word landed clean. "I will be there." And just like that, the entire hallway went still. The silence lasted maybe 2 seconds, but at Oak Ridge High, 2 seconds could feel like a whole season when everyone was waiting to see who would blink first. Paige's smile stayed on her face, though it did not look as effortless now. She'd expected Alana to dodge the invitation, maybe make an excuse, maybe disappear before the last bell and give Paige a new story to tell by lunch. Instead, Alana had looked her dead in the eye and said she would be there, like she had just agreed to meet someone for coffee. Paige recovered fast because that was one thing she was good at. She gave a little laugh, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, and said, "Good, do not make me wait." Then she turned and walked away with Kendra, Molly, Tyler, and Dean following close behind. But Alana noticed something strange as they left. Tyler did not look excited. Dean did, of course. Dean always looked excited when trouble was near, like the world had handed him free tickets to a show. But Tyler glanced back once, and for just a second his eyes met Alana's. There was no smile there, no joke, just a look that said he knew this had gone too far, and he was going along with it anyway. Alana stood by her locker until the hallway filled with noise again. Then she opened the locker, set her history book inside, and closed it carefully. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. Usually when she felt cornered, the body gave her away before her face ever could. Her fingers would shake, her jaw would tighten. Her breathing would get shallow, like she had forgotten how lungs were supposed to work. But right then, all she could hear was her father's voice from the night before. "Make room between what they do and what you choose to do next." She repeated it in her head as she walked to class. "Make room. Do not let them decide who you are." It sounded simple when Ray said it in the garage, sitting beside a heavy bag and an old space heater. It felt a lot less simple when 300 people seemed to know you had agreed to meet the most powerful girl in school behind the gym. By second period, the story had already grown legs. Alana heard it in the bathroom, in the hallway, in the line outside the library. Some people said Paige had challenged her to a fight. Some said Tyler was going to teach her a lesson. Somebody said Alana had brought a knife, which was so ridiculous she almost laughed when she heard it. That was the thing about high school rumors. They started as a spark, then somehow by lunch they were a forest fire with a marching band. Alana ignored all of it. She sat through English, took notes, answered one question about the Crucible, and pretended not to notice when Mr. Crucible, and pretended not to notice when Mr. Harper looked at her a little too long, like maybe he had heard something too. At lunch, she did not go to the far corner table. She almost did. Her feet carried her halfway there out of habit, but then she stopped. The red fruit punch stain was still faintly visible on the floor near the trash cans, though someone had tried to mop it up. She looked at it for a second, then turned toward an empty table near the windows instead, not the center of the room. She was not trying to make a statement. She just did not feel like sitting under a buzzing light beside a trash can, because Paige Holloway had decided that was where she belonged. She opened her lunch bag and found the peanut butter crackers her father had packed that morning. He had probably made them before he left for the shop, knowing she would forget to eat if she was upset. There was a note folded under the crackers. It said, "Breathe first. Love, Dad." Alana looked at it for a long moment. Then she folded it back up and slipped it into the pocket of her jacket. "You mind if I sit here?" a voice asked. Alana looked up. It was a girl with short dark curls, round glasses, and a lunch tray loaded with fries, apple slices, and a carton of milk. Alana recognized her from history class. She had sat near the front and answered questions in a quiet voice. "No," Alana said. "Go ahead." The girl sat down. "I am Nora," she said. "I know. You are Alana." Alana nodded. "That is me." Nora took a fry, dipped it in ketchup, then looked across the cafeteria toward Paige's table. Paige was laughing at something Kendra said, but her eyes kept moving around the room, checking who was watching, checking who was whispering, checking who was whispering, checking whether Alana looked nervous. "I heard about after school," Nora said softly. Alana opened the cracker packet. Apparently, everyone did. Nora gave a small, embarrassed smile. "Yeah, Oak Ridge has terrible security but excellent gossip." Alana let out a short laugh before she could stop herself. It was the first real laugh she had made all week. Nora noticed, but she did not make a big deal out of it. That was something Alana liked about her right away. "You should not go," Nora said. "I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but Paige is not going to play fair. She never does when she thinks someone is making her look stupid." Alana glanced toward Paige again. "Why does everybody let her do it?" Nora took a breath. "Because her dad runs half the town. Her brother is the golden boy, and most people would rather stay off her radar than admit they are scared of her." "And you?" Alana asked. Nora looked down at her tray. "I used to be on it." Alana waited. Nora shrugged, but it was the kind of shrug people use when they are trying to make something painful look small. "Freshman year, I corrected Paige in biology. She said something wrong about a lab report, and I told her the answer was different. I was not even trying to embarrass her. I just thought we were supposed to be learning things." She gave a dry little laugh. "Apparently, that was my first mistake." Alana said nothing. Nora continued. "For about a month, people called me Professor. Someone put a fake report card in my locker that said I had no friends. It was stupid stuff. Small stuff. But it gets heavy when it happens every day, you know." Alana nodded. She knew exactly. "Then why did it stop?" Nora asked. "I stopped answering questions in class, stopped raising my hand, started making myself smaller." She got bored. Alana looked at her, and something in her chest twisted. There it was again, that familiar pattern. People like Paige did not always need to hit anybody. They just needed to make sure the room understood the rules. Stay quiet. Stay small. Stay grateful you are not next. Nora leaned closer. "I'm not saying you should run. I'm just saying do not let her turn this into whatever she wants it to be." Alana looked down at the note from her father in her pocket. "I am trying not to." Across the cafeteria, Paige watched them talking. She could not hear the words, but she did not need to. She saw Nora smiling. She saw Alana smile back, and that bothered her more than it should have. Paige had expected Alana to be alone. That was part of the plan. Isolation made everything easier. It was hard to break somebody when they had people beside them, even if it was only one person sharing a table and a carton of milk. Kendra noticed Paige staring. "What?" she asked. Paige did not look away. "Nothing. You are doing that thing again." "What thing?" "The thing where you act like you do not care, but your eye starts twitching." Paige looked at Kendra slowly. "My eye is not twitching." Molly lowered her voice. "Maybe just leave it alone, Paige." Molly lowered her voice. "Maybe just leave it alone, Paige." "Leave what alone?" Molly hesitated. "The whole thing. She is new. She has not really done anything." Paige laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You think that makes her special?" "No," Molly said. "I think maybe we are making her special." For a moment, Paige said nothing. Her face went still in a way that made both girls regret speaking. Then she leaned back in her chair and looked toward Alana again. "You do not get it," she said. "People like her come in here acting like they are above everybody. Like none of this matters, like I do not matter." Kendra frowned. "Paige, she barely talks." "Exactly," Paige said. "She looks at me like I'm a joke." But the truth was, Alana had never looked at Paige like she was a joke. Not really. She looked at Paige like she was a joke. Not really. She had looked at Paige like she was tired. And Paige hated that more than anger. Anger was easy. Anger meant the other person cared. Tired meant you did not have enough power to matter at all. The rest of the day crawled by. In chemistry, Alana partnered with a boy named Eli Mercer, a quiet kid with freckles and a nervous habit of tapping his pencil against the desk. He had been sitting 2 tables away during lunch and had clearly heard enough to know something was going on. When the teacher turned toward the board, he leaned slightly closer and said, "You really going behind the gym?" Alana measured liquid into a glass cylinder. "That is what I said." Eli watched her hands. "You know Tyler is going to be there, right?" "I figured." "He is not always like that," Eli said quickly. Then he seemed embarrassed, like he knew how weak that sounded. Alana looked at him. "You defending him?" "No, I just mean Paige gets in his head." "She gets in everybody's head." "That make it okay?" Eli swallowed. "No." Alana nodded once. "Then do not say it like it does." He looked down at the worksheet. "You are right." They wept in silence for a few minutes. Then Eli said, "For what it is worth, I think you should bring someone." Alana looked at him. "Like who?" He gave a helpless little shrug. "I do not know. A teacher? A friend? A really large cousin?" Alana almost smiled. "I do not have a large cousin in Riverton." "Well, that feels like poor planning." This time she did smile, small but real. "I will put it on my list." The final bell came at 3:15. Nobody rushed out the way they usually did. The hallways filled slowly, with students pretending to head toward buses, clubs, practice, anywhere except the back of the building. But everyone kept drifting in the same direction. Alana stood at her locker one last time, looking at her reflection in the scratched metal door. Her face looked calm. Her eyes did not. She thought about calling her dad. She even pulled out her phone. Her thumb hovered over his name. Then she put it away. Not because she wanted to handle everything alone. She did not. But because she knew what he would say. Breathe first. Choose next. But because she knew what he would say. Breathe first. Choose next. And she needed to believe she could do that without hearing it from him again. Nora found her near the stairwell. "You are really going," she said. Alana nodded. "Yeah. Then I am coming." "Nora, you do not have to." "I know." Nora pulled her backpack higher on her shoulder. "That is why I'm coming." Alana looked at her. "Paige might come after you." Nora gave a nervous little laugh. "She already did. Turns out I survived." Alana held her gaze for a moment, then nodded. "Stay back." "That is not a promise," Nora said. "It is more of a vague suggestion." They walked toward the rear exit together. The sky outside had turned grey and low, and a cold wind cut across the athletic fields. Behind the gym there was an old storage shed, a chain-link fence. a patch of worn grass, and a cracked strip of pavement where students sometimes parked when they did not want teachers to see them. It was not dramatic in the way movies made places dramatic. No abandoned warehouse, no thunder cracking over the sky. Just a sad little corner behind a school with a broken bench and a soda can rolling in the wind. But there were already people there, 20 students, maybe more. Some stood in loose groups. Some held phones near their sides, pretending they were not planning to record. A few freshmen looked terrified and excited at the same time. The kind of excited people get when they know something bad might happen, as long as it happens to somebody else. Paige stood near the center of the pavement, arms folded across her chest. Kendra and Molly were behind her. Tyler stood off to one side in his varsity jacket, hands in his pockets. Dean leaned against the fence with that same restless grin. When Alana stepped outside, the crowd shifted. A path opened down the middle, not because anyone told them to move, but because people always made space for trouble. Nora stopped near the edge of the group. Alana kept walking. Her boots clicked softly against the pavement. She did not rush. She did not drag her feet. She just walked until she was standing a few feet from Paige. Paige looked her up and down. "I honestly did not think you would come." Alana looked around at the crowd. "You invited half the school. Felt rude not to." A couple people snorted before they could stop themselves. Paige's eyes flicked toward the sound. The laughter died immediately. "You think this is funny?" Paige asked. "No," Alana said. "I think it is sad." That landed harder than Alana expected. Paige's face changed. "Not much. Just enough. Sad," Paige just repeated. "You come into my school, act like you are too good to speak to anybody, act like you do not care what people think, then you stand here and call me sad." Alana kept her voice low. "I never said I was too good for anybody. I just did not come here to play whatever game you are running." Paige took one step closer. "This is not a game." "Then why do you need an audience?" For the first time, Paige did not have an answer ready. The wind moved through the fence behind them. Somewhere near the field, a whistle blew from football practice. Tyler looked at the ground. Kendra shifted her weight. Molly looked uncomfortable, but she stayed quiet. Paige's pride rose up faster than her fear. "It always did. You have been disrespecting me since you got here," she said. "By what breathing?" Alana asked. "By acting like you are not scared of me." Alana stared at her. There it was. The real thing. Not the fruit punch. Not the hallway whispers. Not the notes, the shoulder bumps, the fake smiles. Paige did not want Alana to obey rules. Paige wanted Alana to be afraid. She needed it. Alana felt something settle inside her. Not anger exactly. Clarity. "That is your problem," Alana said. Paige's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me, you think if people are scared of you, that means you matter?" Alana paused, then added, "It does not. It just means they are scared." The crowd went silent. Even Dean stopped smiling. Paige's face flushed. "You do not know anything about me." "I know enough," Alana said. "I know you make people feel small because you are terrified somebody is going to see how small you feel when nobody is looking." Kendra inhaled sharply. Molly looked at Paige like she was waiting for the explosion. Paige stepped closer until they were almost face to face. "You have no idea who you are talking to." "I know exactly who I am talking to," Alana said. "Somebody who has had everybody move out of her way for so long she thinks that makes her strong." Paige's hand moved before her brain caught up. It was not a full swing, more like a quick shove to Alana's shoulder, hard enough to test her, hard enough to make a point. Alana barely moved. She felt the pressure, felt the old instinct rise. Her body knew 10 ways to answer that shove. Instead, she took one slow breath and stayed where she was. Paige stared at her. The crowd stared too. "Do it again," Alana said quietly. Paige's expression flickered. "What? You wanted me out here. You wanted everybody to see something. So do it again." Paige did not move. Her eyes darted toward Tyler. It was subtle, but Alana caught it. Tyler caught it too. He stepped forward, shoulders squared, trying to look confident. He was bigger up close than he had seemed in the hallway. Taller than Alana by almost a foot, built from years of football practice and people telling him he was unstoppable. He stopped a few feet away. "Maybe you should just apologize," he said. Alana looked at him. "For what?" "For running your mouth." I did not start talking until your sister made the whole school listen. Tyler's jaw tightened. You are making this worse. No, Alana said. I think she did that when she decided everybody needed to watch. Dean pushed off the fence and came closer, cracking his knuckles in a way that was probably supposed to look intimidating, but mostly made him look like he had watched too many action movies. You should listen to Tyler, he said. He is trying to help you. Alana looked from Dean to Tyler, then back to Paige. This is help. Paige did not answer. Her face had gone pale under the makeup. She had wanted a scene, but not this kind. Not a scene where people were looking at her and realizing she needed two boys to stand behind her. Tyler stepped another foot closer. Just say you are sorry and walk away. Alana's heart began to pound, but she did not let it speed up her voice. I am sorry you let your sister use you like a weapon. Tyler's face hardened. Watch it. I am watching, Alana said. That is the difference. Dean laughed once, but it came out thin. Paige clenched her hands into fists. Tyler, she said. It was barely louder than a whisper, but everyone heard it. Tyler looked at his sister. For a second, he did not move. There was something almost tired in his face. Maybe he knew this was wrong. Maybe he had known for a long time. Then Dean bumped his shoulder and said, Come on, man. Dean bumped his shoulder and said, Come on, man. Tyler took one more step toward Alana. The crowd pulled back without meaning to. Nora stood near the edge, her hands clenched at her sides. Alana saw out of the corner of her eye, but she kept her attention on Tyler. Ray's voice came back to her, steady and clear. Breathe first. Make room. Choose next. Tyler reached out like he was going to shove her aside, the same way he had done during gym class, expecting her to stumble, expecting the crowd to laugh, expecting the whole thing to end with Alana on the ground and Paige back in control. But this time, Alana did not freeze. She moved just enough to let his hand miss her shoulder, caught his arm before he could recover, and used his own momentum against him. It happened fast, not flashy, not violent. 1 second, Tyler was stepping forward, and the next he was off balance, landing hard on the pavement with a stunned breath knocked out of him. Nobody screamed, nobody laughed. The whole group just stood there, frozen. Tyler pushed himself up on one elbow and looked at Alana like she had broken the laws of physics. Dean stared at her. Kendra covered her mouth. Molly whispered, "Oh my God." Paige did not move at all. Alana stepped back immediately. Her hands were open at her sides. Her breathing was controlled, but inside, every nerve in her body was awake. She had not hurt Tyler. She had not wanted to. She had only stopped him. But now everyone knew. The quiet new girl was not helpless. Dean looked at Tyler on the ground, then at Alana. His grin was gone. "You think you are tough," he said. Alana looked at him. "No." Dean stepped closer. "Then what do you think you are?" Alana's eyes stayed steady, done running. And for the first time since she had arrived at Oak Ridge High, Paige Holloway looked genuinely afraid. Paige Holloway looked genuinely afraid, and that was the moment everything changed. Not because Alana had put Tyler on the ground, not because the crowd had gone quiet, and not even because Dean had finally stopped smirking, but because for the first time in years, Paige could see the truth written all over the faces around her. Nobody was looking at Alana like she was weak anymore. They were looking at Paige like she had gone too far. Dean was the first one to move. Maybe he thought he could fix it. Maybe he thought if he rushed Alana fast enough, loud enough, reckless enough, everybody would forget what they had just seen. Or maybe he just hated being in a crowd where someone else suddenly had more control than he did. He stepped forward with his fists tight at his sides, his face twisted into that fake tough expression people wear when they are scared somebody might notice they are not tough at all. "You got lucky," he said. Alana did not raise her hands. She did not take a fighting stance. She just looked at him and said, "Walk away, Dean." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Or what?" Alana let out a slow breath. "Or you are going to regret making the same mistake Tyler made." That was enough to make the crowd pull back another step. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone understood what was happening now. This was no longer Paige embarrassing the new girl. This was Paige standing behind two boys and hoping they could do what she could not. Dean moved anyway. He came at Alana fast, one arm reaching out like he meant to grab her jacket and drag her down. Alana shifted to the side, caught his wrist before he could get a grip, and redirected him with one clean motion. Dean stumbled forward, lost his balance, and hit the fence shoulder first. The chain links rattled hard enough to make a few people jump. He turned around angry and embarrassed, but before he could charge again, Alana had him pinned at a safe distance, his arm controlled, his body frozen in place by the simple fact that any struggle would only make him look worse. Her voice stayed calm. "Stop." Dean twisted once, then twice, but the fight drained out of him when he realized she was not panicking, not yelling, not trying to hurt him, just holding him there until he understood he was not in control. "Let me go," he muttered. "Then stop trying to touch me," Alana said. The whole crowd heard it. That was the part that landed, not some big speech, not a punch, just the truth, plain and simple. "Stop trying to touch me." Dean went still. Alana released him immediately and stepped back. He rubbed his wrist, staring at the ground. Nobody laughed at him. Somehow that was worse. Tyler had gotten to his feet by then, his face red with embarrassment, but he did not come forward again. He stood near the cracked pavement with his hands hanging at his sides, looking at his sister like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. Paige noticed it. "Tyler," she said, sharper now. "Do something." Tyler looked at Alana, then at Dean, then back at Paige. "Paige, just stop." She blinked at him. "What did you say?" "I said stop." She blinked at him. "What did you say?" "I said stop." The words came out low but steady. For a second, Paige looked almost offended, like she thought she had misheard him. "You were taking her side." Tyler shook his head. "There should not be sides. You brought us out here to scare her. That is all this was." Paige stared at him, and something in her expression cracked. "You were supposed to have my back. Having your back does not mean helping you do this." Tyler looked around at the phones, the students, the silence hanging over all of them. "Not anymore." Kendra looked down. Molly swallowed hard. Paige turned toward them like she expected somebody, anybody, to jump in and tell Tyler he was wrong. Kendra shifted awkwardly. "Paige, maybe we should just go. Paige, maybe we should just go." Paige laughed once, but it sounded broken. "Go? After she made me look like this?" Alana's eyes narrowed slightly. "I did not make you look like anything." Paige spun toward her. "You think you are better than me now?" "No," Alana said. "I think you are the one who keeps turning everything into a contest." Paige took a step closer. Her face was flushed, her shoulders tight, and her eyes had that bright, unfocused look people get when they are no longer thinking clearly. "You came here and ruined everything." Alana looked at her for a long moment. The wind pushed a loose strand of Paige's hair across her face. Behind her, the crowd watched in complete silence. "No," Alana said softly. "You heard all of this before I got here. I just stopped pretending it was okay." Paige's chest rose and fell fast. For a moment, Alana almost thought she might cry. Then Paige did something nobody expected. She lunged forward. It was not graceful. It was not planned. It was pure anger. The kind that comes from somebody realizing they are losing the only thing they thought made them important. She reached for Alana from behind as Alana turned slightly toward Tyler, trying to catch her off guard, trying to get one last victory out of the mess she had created. But Alana had spent too long learning what sudden movement felt like. She heard Paige's shoes scrape the pavement. She felt the air shift behind her. In one quick motion, Alana stepped aside, caught Paige's wrist, and stopped her without slamming her down or making a show of it. Paige lost her balance and ended up bent forward, held in place just enough to understand that Alana could have hurt her if she wanted to. But she did not. Alana kept her voice low. "This is what you wanted, right? You wanted everybody to watch somebody lose control." Paige froze. The fight drained out of her body all at once. Her breathing became shaky. The crowd did not laugh. Not one person laughed, and that silence hit Paige harder than anything else could have. Alana leaned closer, not angry, not cruel, just completely certain. "You were never strong because people were afraid of you," she said. "You were just loud enough that nobody wanted to deal with you." Paige shut her eyes. Alana released her slowly and stepped back. Paige stumbled once, then caught herself. She looked around at the people she had spent years controlling with rumors, jokes, threats, and little humiliations disguised as fun. Kendra would not meet her eyes. Molly had tears in hers. Tyler looked exhausted. Dean was still standing by the fence, quiet for the first time anybody could remember. Paige opened her mouth like she wanted to say something sharp, something that could put the world back in order, but nothing came out. Finally, she turned and walked away, not like the Paige Holloway who had entered the hallway that Monday morning with her head high and everybody moving aside. She walked with her shoulders folded in, one hand wiping quickly at her face, trying to hide the tears before anybody could see them. But everybody saw. They all saw. The crowd began to break apart after that. Some students put their phones away. A few looked embarrassed, like they had suddenly remembered they had come there expecting entertainment. Nora walked over to Alana slowly, her eyes wide. "Are you okay?" Alana nodded, but the truth was her legs felt weak. Her hands were starting to shake now that it was over. Not from fear, exactly, from the release of it. From holding herself together, while every old memory inside her had been trying to pull her apart. Nora looked at Tyler, then at Dean, then at the trail of students walking back toward the parking lot. "That was," she paused, searching for the right word. Alana gave a tired little smile. "A mess." Nora laughed softly. "Yeah, a mess." Tyler took one step closer, but stopped far enough away to make it clear he was not trying to start anything. "Alana," he said. She looked at him. He rubbed the back of his neck, staring at the pavement. "I am sorry." She did not answer right away. He looked up. "Not just for today. For all of it. I knew it was wrong. I just did not want Paige mad at me." Alana nodded slowly. "That is how it works, though. Somebody does something wrong. Everybody else tells themselves they are not part of it because they did not start it." Tyler looked like he wanted to argue, but he could not. "You are right," he said. "I should have stopped it." "Yeah," Alana replied. "You should have." Then she turned and walked away with Nora beside her. They passed the old storage shed, the broken bench, the empty soda can rolling across the pavement. It all looked exactly the same as it had 20 minutes earlier, but somehow none of it felt the same. By the time Alana got home, the sun had dropped behind the trees and the porch light was already flickering. Ray was in the garage, working on the engine of an old Ford truck. He looked up when she came through the side door. He did not ask if it happened. He saw it in her face. He wiped his hands on a rag and walked toward her. "You okay?" Alana stood there for a second, trying to decide whether she was. Then she nodded, and the tears came anyway. Not loud. Not dramatic, just the kind that show up after you've been holding too much inside for too long. Ray pulled her into a hug and held her there without saying anything. That was what she needed most. Not a lecture, not a speech about being proud of her, just somebody letting her breathe. After a minute, she pulled back and wiped her face. "I did not hurt them," she said. Ray nodded. "I know. I wanted to at first. I know that too." Alana looked down at her hands. "I was so mad." Ray sat on the bench beside the heavy bag and motioned for her to sit. "Being mad does not make you bad," he said. "What you do with it is what matters." Alana leaned back against the wall. Paige looked scared. Ray was quiet for a moment. "How did that make you feel?" Alana thought about it. She expected the answer to be satisfying. She expected some part of her to feel victorious. But all she felt was tired. "Sad," she said finally. Ray gave a small nod. "That means you are still you." The next morning, Oak Ridge High felt different before Alana even walked through the doors. The usual hallway noise was there, lockers slamming, shoes squeaking, somebody laughing too loud near the vending machines, but underneath it was a new kind of tension. People looked at Alana when she entered, but not in the same way they had before. There were no whispers about Detroit. No little comments about her jacket. A few students nodded at her as she passed. One girl from chemistry said, "Hey, Alana," like they had known each other longer than 2 days. Ellie gave her a cautious wave from near the water fountain. Nora was waiting by the lockers with 2 coffees and handed one over without saying anything. "I do not know how you take it," she said, "so I guessed medium roast and hoped for the best." Alana took a sip. "You guessed right," Nora smiled. "I am basically a genius." They stood there for a second, watching students move through the hallway. Then Alana noticed Paige near her locker at the far end. Paige was alone. No Kendra, no Molly, no Tyler, leaning against the wall nearby. No Tyler leaning against the wall nearby. No crowd opening up for her. Just Paige holding a notebook against her chest, staring at the combination lock like it had suddenly become the hardest thing in the world. Alana saw 2 girls walk past her and whisper. Paige heard them. Her shoulders tightened. For a moment, Alana felt something ugly try to rise in her. A part of her thought, good, now she knows. But it did not stay long, because she did know. She knew what it felt like to walk through a hallway and feel every eye on you. She knew what it felt like when people decided you were a story instead of a person. At lunch, the cafeteria was quieter than usual. Paige sat alone at the center table where she used to hold court. The irony was almost too obvious. Her old table was still in the middle of the room, but now it looked less like a throne and more like an island. Alana sat by the windows with Nora and Eli. They were talking about a history assignment when she saw Paige staring down at her tray, barely touching her food. Kendra and Molly were at another table, pretending not to notice her. Tyler sat with a group from the football team and did not look in his sister's direction once. Alana looked at Paige for a long time. Then she stood up. Nora stopped talking. "What are you doing?" Alana picked up her tray. "I do not know yet." Nora looked nervous. That is not usually a comforting answer. Alana walked across the cafeteria. One by one, conversations died down. People noticed. Of course they did. They were waiting for the next scene. Maybe they thought Alana was going to dump something on Paige's tray. Maybe they thought she was going to say something clever and cruel in front of everyone. Maybe they thought justice meant returning humiliation with humiliation. Paige looked up as Alana stopped at the edge of the table. Her face went pale. "What do you want?" she asked. Her voice was flat, defensive, but it shook a little at the end. Alana put her tray down on the table across from her. She did not sit. "Not yet." "Nothing," she said. "Poor thing," she said. Paige frowned. "Then why are you here?" Alana looked around the cafeteria. Every eye was on them. "Because this needs to end." Paige gave a bitter laugh. "You already won." Alana shook her head. "I was not trying to win." "Sure looked like it." "No," Alana said. "It looked like I stopped you from hurting me." Paige stared at her, and for the first time since Alana had arrived, there was no arrogance in her face, just confusion. Maybe shame. Maybe something close to regret. "You hate me," Paige said. Alana thought about lying. It would have been easy, but she did not. "I do not like what you did to me," she said. "I do not like what you did to Nora, or Tyler, or anybody else you made feel small so you could feel bigger. But I do not hate you." Paige looked away. "Why not?" Alana pulled out the folded note her father had packed in her lunch bag the day before. "Breathe first. Love, Dad." She held it between her fingers for a moment, then put it back in her pocket. "Because I know what it feels like when people only see the worst thing about you." Paige swallowed hard. Alana leaned forward slightly. Her voice stayed quiet, but the whole room could hear it. "Do not mistake this for forgiveness. You have to earn that. But I am not going to become you just to prove I beat you." Paige's eyes filled, and she quickly looked down before anyone could see. Alana stepped back, picked up her tray, and turned away. She did not sit at Paige's table. She did not offer friendship. Some things were not fixed in one conversation. Some damage did not disappear because someone finally faced consequences. But the fight was over, and that mattered. Over the next few weeks, things at Oak Ridge High changed in small ways before they changed in big ones. Teachers started noticing more. Students who had spent years staying quiet began speaking up when somebody got picked on. Tyler quit acting like Paige's personal security guard and started spending more time at practice than in hallways. Dean got suspended after another incident with a freshman, and for once nobody rushed to defend him. Kendra and Molly drifted apart from Paige. Some people said they felt guilty. Some said they were just scared of being seen the way Paige had been seen the way Paige had been seen. Maybe it was both. Paige did not become a different person overnight. Real life rarely works like that. She stayed quiet for a while. She avoided crowds. She ate lunch alone more than once. One afternoon, Alana saw her helping a freshman pick up books after someone knocked them out of her hands. Paige did not make a big show of it. She just bent down, gathered the papers, and handed them back. Maybe it meant something. Maybe it did not. Alana never asked. She had learned that people could change, but nobody could do the changing for them. As for Alana, she did not become the new queen of Oak Ridge High. She did not want Paige's table. She did not want people moving aside when she walked through the hallway. She joined the self-defense club after school, helped Nora study the history, and started eating lunch wherever she felt like sitting. Sometimes that was by the windows. Sometimes it was outside near the football field. Once, she even sat in the far corner by the trash cans just because she could, and because she wanted to remind herself that no table in a cafeteria got to decide her worth. The story people told about Alana Brooks changed depending on who you asked. Some said she was brave. Some said she embarrassed Paige too much. A few said she should have walked away and let adults handle it. Others said adults had been around the whole time and nobody handled anything until she stood up for herself. That was the part people argued about most. Did Alana do the right thing? Was it justice, or was it just another public humiliation with the roles reversed? Alana did not have a perfect answer. She only knew this. She had spent too long believing that being peaceful meant being powerless. And she had spent too long being afraid that standing up for herself would turn her into somebody she did not want to be. But that afternoon behind the gym, she learned something she would carry for the rest of her life. You can be kind without being weak. You can be kind without being silent. And you can stop someone from hurting you without losing yourself in the process. So tell me what you think. Did Alana go too far? Or did Paige finally face the consequences of the fear she built around everyone else? And if you were standing in that crowd behind the gym, would you have stepped in sooner, or would you have stayed quiet until somebody else found the courage to speak? Drop your honest opinion in the comments, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories about power, dignity, and what happens when the people everyone overlooks finally decide they have had enough.